In my journey of acquiring new skills and knowledge, I faced a familiar and frustrating challenge. Despite dedicating significant effort, I often found myself overwhelmed and struggling to retain the information I'd worked so hard to acquire. That struggle to remember and maintain information is something that we all face at one point or another, and it's painful. When I was in college, I always found myself doing really poorly on tests because no matter how hard I studied, I couldn't remember anything I was learning. This made it really difficult to get good grades in school because I had to rely on doing 100% perfect on everything else. And once I got into the workforce, there was no pass or fail. It was like sink or swim. You either are able to perform the responsibilities that are given to you, or you're getting fired. And once you get up to the executive level, there's just so much information that you need to learn and have off the top of your head, or you're gonna look like an idiot. So this really forced me to take matters into my own hands and really dive deep into how people actually retain information and what the brightest minds do. What I've discovered is that the human brain is capable of so much transformation and adaptation. In learning the science behind memory and adopting these techniques, you can absolutely train your brain to be able to remember just about anything you learn. And the first technique that's been an absolute game changer for me is the 80-20 rule. This rule asserts that roughly 80% of your effects come from 20% of your causes. This principle is primarily used in business and economics, but it can be just as effective in memory recall. Instead of trying to memorize every detail of a subject, I just focus in on the most crucial 20%. The key concepts, the essential facts, the fundamental principles. Not all information is created equal, and some pieces are much more valuable than others. Your brain only has so much bandwidth to hold information, and if you are focusing your attention on trying to remember all the little details of a concept, then it's going to be very hard to fit that much information in. By doing this, I'm able to remember the core concepts and then use them as like building blocks to come up with the other 80% of the information. So even though I don't remember every little detail, I have a strong foundation to work with. I just tried to remember every little bit of information that came my way, every Snapple fact I ever popped off a glass bottle. And it left me with just an overwhelming, useless array of information that wasn't important. But by identifying the core ideas of the information that I'm trying to retain and then making that the focal point of my study, I'm a lot more focused and I'm just overall a lot more productive. Learning's just become a lot less overwhelming and I don't have that anxiety to have to remember every little bit of information. The next game-changing technique is the Feynman Technique. This technique uses the power of visualization and storytelling to embed that information deep within your memory. Richard Feynman was a Nobel Prize-winning US theoretical physicist whose research proved that our brains are hardwired to retain information more effectively when we take the subject matter and then teach it to ourselves or somebody else. Instead of just trying to remember individual pieces of information, I try to weave them into mentally engaging stories. These stories weave in the details that I want to remember, whether it's settings or characters or overall plot. And the more vivid imagination, the better. So if I'm trying to understand a lawsuit and someone did something bad to someone else, I kind of look at them as Voldemort and the other guy as Hermione. And by linking this information with characters and emotions, I'm a lot more engaged and I'm a lot more interested in the material. It allows me to create associations between elements in a story and information that I want to remember. And that makes it so much more easy to recall that information and remember it because it's a story that you made yourself that is unforgettable and probably ridiculous. The next one has been my go-to for as long as I can remember, and that is handwriting instead of typewriting. When I actually physically write things out instead of type things out, I find it so much easier to remember that information. And even though my handwriting is terrible, the act of writing has a profound impact on memory. Research suggests that the physical art of forming letters and words with pen and paper engages the brain in a unique way. It involves multiple sensory modalities such as touch and kinesthetic feedback, which allows you to be able to retain that information so much more. When I committed to taking notes by writing them down instead of just typing them out on my computer, it forces me to be a lot more thoughtful about the information that I'm choosing to write down. It's more of a slower, deliberate way of learning. This process encourages me to think critically about what I'm writing, and therefore I'm able to grasp information a lot easier. Handwriting creates a personal connection between me and that information. As I put pen to paper, I feel a sense of ownership over the knowledge that I'm acquiring. It's as if the words and the concepts just start to become a part of me. And that physical placement of putting words on a page provides a spatial context that aids in memory. I can visualize the notes and then mentally scroll through them, allowing myself to recall that information. The next strategy is learning from multiple sources. When studying or trying to learn a particular subject, you explore different viewpoints, different formats, different perspectives, you give your brain the ability to learn and memorize things that much easier. We're living in the digital age, people, and instead of just relying on that one single hardback book that your teacher wrote and is charging you $500,000 for, you can get that same information online for free in a million different types of ways. By consulting with multiple sources, I gain a more comprehensive understanding of that subject matter. Each resource typically provides its own unique perspective, layering insights and enriching my grasp of the material. It's been a memory reinforcement technique, being able to expose myself to the same information from various resources. So in this context, repetition is not monotonous, but it's a way to strengthen and recall that information that you previously learned from a different resource. And when you learn from diverse sources, you become that much more adaptable. Think about all the people that watch the same news network and they just rattle off the same bit of information and they just become just like everyone else. But when you're watching 10 different news stations and you have all this various other information that other people may not have, who you think's gonna win the argument? Who you think's gonna learn more? You'd be like, oh, I learned that in the other place and you're full of shit and you don't even know what year it is. You get an unbiased 360-degree viewpoint of the subject matter. Connecting what you learned to another resource telling you something identical or similar, you're like, oh, I learned it this way, but oh, that's the other unique way to look at it. The next time-tested approach is dedicating 20 focused hours to a subject. The idea is that you are dedicating a concentrated block of time to really dive in and focus and hone in on that new information. And during these 20 hours, I try to fully immerse myself into the material, blocking out all other distractions and really just absorbing as much information as I possibly can. By dedicating that focused block of time, I bypass that superficial just learning that comes with casually exposing yourself to a topic. And 20 hours can be a lot. Not a lot of people have 20 dedicated free hours in the day. I get it. And so consistency is key here. Personally, I like to break up those 20 hours over a whole set of days or weeks or even over a month. And honestly, the longer the better, because as you space out that information and you continuously learn it over a longer period of time, your memory recall becomes a lot more stronger. And achieving that level of proficiency and understanding within that 20 hours makes me so much more confident as a learner. It really just reassures me that I am capable of tackling new subjects and acquiring new information. And these concepts that I'm learning during these 20 hours are really etched into my long-term memory. And I'm really passionate about sharing these skills that I've learned because I have ADHD and learning for me is a bit more challenging. But in the real world, I don't have that luxury. I either learn and maintain that information or I'm out of a job. I really do believe that if you apply these principles, that you will become a much more efficient learner and you will have such a better memory. If this video brought you value, please give it a thumbs up. It means the world to me. It helps with the algorithm. It helps get my videos out there. I'm a small channel that's just trying to make it out there. It's tough out there. It all helps. It all adds up, okay? If you want to share it with Johnny Tsunami, you can do that too. Anyway, there's more videos if you want to check them out. I'm gonna crawl in a hole for the rest of the day. I don't know, but I'll see you in the next video, guys. Love you. Later.
Urchin's motto, man. Go big, go home.